In February 2023, hundreds of people went online to grieve. It wasn't a person or a pet they lost, but rather they're grieving over an app called Replica AI, a platform that allows users to create AI companions that had lost features like ERP, erotic roleplay. This change wasn't made by the users or the company itself, but rather by a bunch of Italians responsible for data protection. And just like that, Replica removed features used globally that users' emotional well-being had partly depended on. And while this video isn't about Italy or Replica AI specifically, it highlights that in the field of AI companions, when something goes wrong, whether your AI lover gets deleted overnight or you lose your steamy playtime feature with your AI companion, where does accountability fall? And how can people mitigate these risks? Because it's pretty clear that this clanker therapy thing isn't quite invincible. Now, AI can be used for a lot of things, from cheating on your homework. Heck, it can even be your new Uber option or your waiter at a fancy cafe. AI is like a trainable jack of all trades, and are rapidly entering the mainstream. And that's evident as these jack of all trades have started turning into our companions. In July of 2025, it was reported that AI companion apps had finally reached a whopping 220 million downloads worldwide, demonstrating their adoption into the mainstream, with downloads nearly doubling in the first half of 2025 alone. Consumers have begun dropping absolute bans on these apps. For instance, Replica alone reports having over 42 million users worldwide by May 31st, 2026. Where back in 2023, they reported 60% of their paying users described their relationship with their chatbot as being quite steamy. And with AI tools' overall monthly revenue growing by 37 times in just 2023 to 2025, AI is only going to keep growing as users begin to learn that their AI can essentially be their own yes man. And this problem isn't just one that one country is facing. Loneliness has been a rising problem globally, bringing even the attention of the World Health Organization. In June of 2025, they released their first global commission report on social connection, where one message is clear: it was a global public health crisis, with nearly 1 in 6 people globally report feeling lonely. And loneliness has a real cost. The World Health Organization is now treating social disconnection as a cause of premature death, where it's been estimated that loneliness alone has been associated with around 871,000 deaths per year, nearly 100 deaths per hour. And in 2023, the US Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, cited that lacking connection can increase the risk for premature death as much as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Brutal. And while much of the world has seemingly yet to implement much policy to combat this issue, Japan and the United Kingdom have gotten ahead of a problem and realized this, and responded by creating policy to address this growing loneliness epidemic. Japan is a particularly interesting case. Despite Japan actually being one of the slowest countries in the world to adopt AI for everyday work and tasks, Japan has arguably one of the deepest relationships with artificial companions. From dating sims to virtual idols to anime being ingrained into their culture, when a country that drags its feet on AI everywhere else, yet seemingly feels right at home with the no man's land of AI companions, it certainly raises the question: what is going on in Japan? Nearly 39.3% of Japanese adults report feeling lonely, with adults in the US reporting loneliness at about rates of 30%, and globally, 1 in 6 people are affected by loneliness. It's clear that Japan struggles with loneliness, and while mental health support is available, it's heavily weighed down by their own culture and stigmatized, especially with a social phenomena known as hikikomori. Hikikomori, close enough, is a phenomena of severe, prolonged social withdrawal where individuals isolate themselves from society, often remaining confined to their homes or single rooms for months or years, with an estimated 1.46 million people living as hikikomori. I can never say it. And in a country where mental health support is stigmatized, people are facing a loneliness epidemic, and there's a subculture that quietly encourages people to lock themselves away from the outside world. When the door's closed and the screen is already on, a companion that lives within your screens is a natural fit to the problem. And it's not by chance, because the conditions people face has encouraged it. And compared to the rest of the world, where AI could be seen as something to supplement mental health support in the future, in Japan, due to the cultural stigma already blocking these services, AI is less of a supplement and more so is the mental health support. As for many people, there never was anything to replace in the first place. So why are these AI chatbots and pseudo-romantic partners so effective at being a substitute or complete replacement for a friend, lover, or therapist? And in the case of AI, these values come from the engineers and data that are used to train these models, and especially from what these AI models are meant to accomplish. Every piece of technology has values built into it, whether on purpose or not. And in the case of AI, these values come from the engineers and the data that are used to train these models, and especially from what these AI models are meant to accomplish. Replica was built in San Francisco, meant to always be ready to talk, rarely ever judge you, and is designed to keep you talking to the point where some users forget they're speaking to an AI. And while a human partner won't be your yes man 24/7 that is available to talk, AI is, and the longer you stay engaged and the deeper your connection gets, the more the product wins. And while plenty of products are designed to keep you engaged, from doom scrolling on social media that has become the epicenter of daily entertainment, the problem is what they're often engaging with. And while doom scrolling or playing a game scratches an itch of boredom or entertainment, AI companions keep scratching that attachment or social itch, which often appears as a mismatch. While users treat the AI as a partner, a confidant, or a therapist, the product just treats you like another user that just brings in some more cash flow. You don't treat it like a product, but it treats you like a customer. But going into the future, when someone reaches for an AI companion instead of a real person, what does that AI companion replace in our society? And if that system, such as therapists, gets displaced in favor of AI, well, this whole problem gets a lot darker. In February of 2023, Italy's data protection authority called Bibliography forced Replica AI to change, citing legal reasons and the risks Replica AI posed to minors and vulnerable users. And while the decision was made in Italy, the consequences landed globally. Users in Tokyo, Texas, Britain, and small communities those regulators had never even heard of. Users woke up to find their companion changed, some reporting them as even lobotomized, as Replica took action to strip features like their erotic roleplay and spicy selfies from companions globally. And nobody had warned them. And while Luca, the company behind Replica AI, answered to their investors and regulators, and the Garante answered to the law and EU citizens, nobody truly listened to the people who'd actually become close or even dependent to their AI companion. These users were the ones who were suffering. Suddenly losing these features, there's no one holding them accountable or to be accountable for. Users just suddenly lost a piece of their support system with no replacement in sight. With this unshift, users had a lot to say about the change. One user said, "It's like losing a best friend," and a second user reporting, "It feels like a best friend had a traumatic brain injury, and they're just not in there anymore." And a third user stating, "It sent him into a sharp depression." And while these users know what they were talking to was ultimately software, the grief and the pain was real. And despite that pain, there was no one and no support waiting for them. There wasn't a transition period or even a warning. There was no referral to someone who could help. It was like the floor had suddenly just dropped out from under users. And while Replica complied with regulation and the regulator complied to legalities, the user, who the product was built for, was left to grieve about a relationship that was changed forever just by a simple software update. And users who let AI replace something like a relationship or support structure, when that AI changes or disappears, there is no fallback, because the alternative is what users have AI replace. And that's the difference between AI mental health support and other support services. When your mental health provider disappears, there's often warnings and systems to find another. When a friend isn't there, there's often another one to talk to. But when Replica AI suddenly shuts off a piece of someone's emotional support, there was no replacement, because legally, emotionally, and structurally, nobody was ever responsible for that user's reliance in the first place. Replica AI survived, but the users who had relied on the old system had been scarred. So now this leads us back to Japan and what is actually being displaced, because that's where Japan differs from the United States. In the US, therapy does exist, and it's available to people, but it's expensive and it carries brutal wait lists. I mean, it's become such a problem that there's memes about, I can't afford a therapist. And while it's funny, it's also sad because it's true for millions of Americans. But compared to Japan, the human relationship is present in America. And AI is just an alternative that can displace something real, like a relationship with a friend or a connection to a therapist. And while AI can be marketed as a supplement, in reality, for many Americans, it's just a cheaper substitute. But in Japan, the role for AI mental health is far different. With cultural stigma against mental health support, high loneliness rates, and the withdrawal trend called hikikomori, AI emerged to fill a vacuum that America never had. Japan, for the most part, lacked the human relationship and systems that America has. So when a Japanese user turns to an AI companion, for many, it didn't displace a relationship that already existed, but rather filled a vacuum that its own society failed to fill. And while that sounds like AI was a great fit, it does bring its own costs. AI, as a cheaper, always available substitute, sounds great on paper, but with AI filling the gap, the pressure to actually fix a problem dissipates a little. Because why spend millions, heck, even billions of dollars over the next decade to build mental health infrastructure and combat cultural stigma when an app already exists to help fix loneliness for a fraction of a price? And this is where the risk of AI arises. It closes off a future solution to the problem before it ever even had a chance to get filled. And Japan in ways is living proof. They've taken loneliness seriously on the surface. They've appointed a literal minister of loneliness and passed a national act on loneliness in 2024. And while the ministry addressed the feelings of loneliness through programs aimed at connection and outreach, they didn't address one of the core problems, failing to tackle the cultural stigma against mental health services. They've built programs for connection and outreach without addressing the stigma that actually works to keep people from human care, while failing to address the current solution for the problem that has quietly emerged, that is AI. And with Japan passing its first AI law in 2025, the problem of accountability and support still remains. When AI used for mental health falls through, like with Replica in 2023, what systems are there for users to fall back on? Because currently, it seems like there really is none. And if accountability systems are to arise, it seems that countries are either going to have to pioneer future solutions for future problems, or solutions to problems that have already existed. In September of 2025, California passed a law called SB 243, the first law ever written to address AI companions specifically, which required platforms to protect minors while building protocols if self-harm were to pop up. And it didn't come from studying Japan or being forward-thinking. It came after a 14-year-old who'd unfortunately passed by suicide due to the relationship with an AI companion through a platform called Character AI. The first guardrail to ever be implemented wasn't because of future thinking, but only occurred after the loss of a child. And as it goes on, it seems that history could repeat itself. As the accountability gap globally may only begin to close when someone forces it, Japan began taking action when loneliness became a widespread issue, and AI companions in the US only faced regulations after the loss of a life. Now, it can be easy thinking that AI is bad, but it's not black and white. The people using these tools are often addressing their own need that their environment failed to fulfill. People merely have taken action to address their own unmet needs, so what can actually be done to help the accountability issue and improve AI in the field to be a better tool? Number one, while this one seems minimal and corporations definitely would not like it, apps in the field should disclose that a chatbot can't replace a human service provider. A platform that markets itself as a mental health support or companion should tell users that it has no clinical accountability, and things can change without warning. This shouldn't be buried in a legal mumbo-jumbo or the bottom of a EULA, but should be easily viewable to all users. Second, transition systems. To address the accountability issue, there has to be fallback solutions. With the case in Italy, users lost systems and features they leaned on suddenly, it's like overnight, and there was no ease into it or backup solution to ease their pain. If a platform crosses the threshold where people begin to become emotionally dependent, it should be required to help users ease into the change. When features change or services shut down, warnings, referrals to human resources, and gradual software changes are all important to protect people. And third, lastly, addressing the replacement and displacement of human alternatives by AI. AI companions are filling in gaps that human systems should work to fill themselves. And while AI is a tool with large benefits, the danger arises from when we let AI become the solution, effectively stopping developments within the mental health sector because AI is good enough. Because AI can break, hallucinate, and lacks true, authentic human connection. While real human infrastructure may crack, it doesn't break or shift in the same way as AI. And ultimately, if you're using these tools yourself, I'm not going to tell you not to. Heck, I even use ChatGPT sometimes for these purposes because I can't afford mental health. I'm a broke college student. But as a substitute, I use it, and to have support systems that extend far beyond just AI. AI is just one pillar of my own support system, while for some people, it's their only pillar. And when AI could pivot or shift overnight, it's important to have a support network, people to talk to, and someone you trust. Make the app a piece of your support, and not the only one.